Living things can be classified into 5 kingdoms, beginning with the simplest one-celled monarans and protists, up through the more complicated many-celled kingdoms of the fungi, plants, and animals. And all kingdoms of living things can be classified into smaller groups called divisions or phyla. Of all the kingdoms of living things, it is the animal kingdom that shows the greatest variety among its phyla. Some don't look like animals at all. Some look slimy or scary. But all have important roles to play in whatever part of the world of nature they have chosen to inhabit. Let us look at several different phyla of animals from the most simple to the most complicated, and learn a few of the many ways their body types and lifestyles have become more complex as they adapted to a wide variety of environments. Although today's way of classifying animals does not include one-celled creatures in the animal kingdom, it is best to begin by looking at them first because they are so simple. A drop of pond water, when seen under a microscope, can contain many strange one-celled creatures. And those that aren't greenish or bluish in color are essentially just one-celled animals. Unlike plants, all animals, even these one-celled examples, cannot survive unless they capture food. This paramecium uses hairs to wiggle rapidly about and to trap food. This amoeba has no definite body shape and moves by creating heat from the outer membrane of its simple one-celled body. It is easy to see its large round nucleus floating about in its cytoplasm. Sponges are the simplest true members of the animal kingdom. And like the one-celled animals we have just seen, rely on trapped algae for most of their food. Their spongy bodies are filled with tiny holes through which water containing small particles of food is sucked. Food is trapped in the sponge's body and the water is pumped out of a large hole to the outside. Sponges are made up of many cells of several different types. Most live in salt water. Very often, they just look like bright patches of color, red, yellow, orange, or purple, growing in thin layers on rocky surfaces. Although most household sponges today are made of plastic, it is still possible to buy sponges that are the actual rubbery skeletons of real sponges. Like the sponges, this group of animals is most familiar to people who live near the ocean, especially where rocky tide pools are found. These colorful creatures called sea anemones can be found in huge numbers in shallow seawater. Their bodies are made up of many cells and are more complicated than those of sponges. For example, each anemone has a ring of stinging tentacles surrounding a mouth that opens into a gut where digestion occurs. Humans and some fish are not harmed by sea anemone's stinging tentacles, but others fall victim to their stings and are quickly captured and eaten. At a young stage of their lives, jellyfish can be found attached to rocks just like sea anemones. One of the most dangerous types of jellyfish is the Portuguese man-o-war. It uses its sail to move through the water and can be blown thousands of miles by the wind, dragging its long, deadly tentacles through the water. One sting from a Portuguese man-o-war causes unbelievable pain to an unlucky swimmer. Other important animals in this group are corals, whose skeletons create these fantastic shapes. They form coral reef environments that support many kinds of underwater life. These environments are probably the most beautiful and mysterious in all of nature. phylum of spiny-skinned animals are found entirely in salt water, and the spoked wheel design of their bodies is unlike the body design found in any other animal phylum. Probably the most familiar of these animals are the starfish, which crawl slowly over rocky surfaces in search of shellfish or corals to eat. Another very odd group of spiny-skinned animals are sea urchins. They can walk on their funny tube feet and can even chew comfortable holes for themselves out of solid rock. They eat mostly algae and dead plant material. There are many phyla of worms, and of all of them, the flatworms are the simplest. They can be found living as parasites in other animals where they can cause serious diseases. Flatworms are also found living free in both fresh and salt water. They have no blood to transport food chemicals to their cells. For this reason, their digestive systems are branched, so food materials can simply soak into the nearby cells. This flatworm has two dark eyes surrounded by a lighter area, making it look almost cross-eyed. Like many other complicated animals, including human beings, one side of a flatworm's body is the exact mirror image of its other side. These worms feed mostly on other worms and are much more complicated than flatworms. For example, they have circulatory systems for blood to bring food and oxygen to their cells. This giant ribbon worm is over 8 feet long. It normally lives under stones along the seashore, and like many other worms, it makes a tube-shaped home for itself from mucus it releases from its skin. The worms with which we are the most familiar are the earthworms. Their bodies, just like all other members of this phylum, are divided into segments or rings. Inside their bodies are many complicated organs for pumping blood, elimination of wastes, and for reproduction. In certain places, the bottom of the sea can be crowded with segmented worms. Some have bristles that they can use for crawling over rocks and for burrowing. Others grow long, delicate tentacles for trapping food. Segmented worms, just like all the other phyla of worms, breathe through their skins and will quickly die if they dry out. Of all the invertebrate animals, that is, those animals without backbones, the phylum of the mollusks is the second largest group. Members of this phylum are called soft-bodied animals. This sea slug is a quite beautiful mollusk that breathes through delicate external gills. One of the largest mollusks is the octopus. An octopus can swim freely by shooting a jet of water, or it can crawl by using its 8 suction cup feet. But most mollusks have hard shells surrounding their soft bodies. Two common-shelled mollusks are snails and clams. This phylum contains more species of animals than all the others put together. This group includes insects, crabs, spiders, and centipedes. Arthropods have no backbone. Instead, their muscles, nerves, and internal organs are surrounded and supported by a tough, leathery outer skeleton. They take their name from the fact that all arthropods have unique jointed legs. There are many flying arthropods like butterflies and dragonflies. There are arthropods that crawl, that swim, that live together in complicated societies like ants and bees. All in all, arthropods are very remarkable. Many biologists think they are the most successful group of animals. Because they are found in such great numbers and large variety, and because of their incredible ability to adapt and survive under harsh conditions. The phylum of chordates contains all the vertebrate animals. Vertebrates have backbones with nerve cords inside of them. Because we humans are members of this phylum, we will go into a little more detail in this section and examine the most important classes of chordates. All of the animals in this class of chordates have skeletons of rubbery cartilage instead of bone. All cartilage fish live in salt water. The most common members of this group are the sharks and rays. Waters of the world are filled with fishes who have hard, bony skeletons. The members of this class are found in every shape, color, and design. Scientists believe that millions of years ago, fish with thick, fleshy front fins and very crude lungs pulled themselves out of the water and became the first vertebrates to walk on land, giving rise to the next class of chordates, the amphibians. These moist skin vertebrates breathe mostly through their skins, but some, like this Mexican salamander, have gills similar to those of fish, while others, like these frogs, have gills when they are tadpoles but lose them as adults, when they are replaced by simple lungs. Amphibians can live both in and out of the water, but their lungs are not good enough to supply all the oxygen they need to live full-time on the land. For this reason, moist skin is essential for oxygen absorption. These vertebrate animals have dry, scaly skin, and like amphibians, bony fish and cartilage fish are cold-blooded. This means their blood is the temperature of the air which surrounds them. For this reason, reptiles are not active during cold weather, but their activity increases as the temperature rises in the spring. In the summer, they have to be careful not to remain too long in the sun, or it can kill them. Reptiles such as lizards, alligators, turtles, and snakes have no gills and have much better lungs than amphibians. Reptiles can only survive by breathing air. We can easily recognize birds because they are the only animals whose bodies are covered with feathers. They have very light, hollow bones, and nearly all but a few types of birds can fly. Birds are the first of only two classes of chordates that have warm blood. The body temperature of warm-blooded animals stays pretty much the same whether it is hot or cold outside. And the body temperature of birds is actually higher than the last class of chordates, the mammals. Humans are mammals, and so are ocean-dwelling whales, flying bats, and burrowing prairie dogs. All mammals have bodies covered with hair, and all mammals nurse their young with milk. We have seen some of the many unusual ways that animals have met the challenge of surviving on Earth, and have learned how some are classified. From simple sponges who filter water for food, to complicated animals like human beings. From simple to complicated, the wonderful kingdom of animals is a very important branch of the world of nature. Mark the boxes on the answer sheet either true or false, or fill in the blank when you hear the tone. True or false. The main difference between plants and animals is that animals need to eat food to survive, while plants can make their own food by photosynthesis. This is the skeleton of the simplest many-celled animal called true or false. This animal, called a sea anemone, is in the same phylum of animals as the jellyfish. True or false. This octopus is in the same phylum of animals as clams. True or false. This spiny-skinned animal, called a sea urchin, does not have feet and cannot walk. This animal, called a is in the same phylum of spiny-skinned animals as the sea urchin. True or false. This dragonfly is in the phylum of arthropods, just like bees, spiders, and centipedes. True or false. The word arthropod means having jointed legs. True or false. Segmented worms like this have more complicated bodies than fish. True or false. An invertebrate is an animal that has a backbone with a nerve cord inside of it. True or false. The slug pictured here belongs to the phylum of mollusks. True or false. This salamander, like all other animals with backbones, belongs to the phylum of chordates. True or false. There are no more than 3 different classes of chordate animals. True or false. Frogs and salamanders belong to the amphibian class of chordates. True or false. Animals in the phylum of chordates are also called vertebrates. True or false. Both birds and mammals are warm-blooded. This means their body temperature does not change with the temperature of their environment. Lizards, turtles, snakes, and alligators belong to a class of chordates called true or false. Whales are mammals and nurse their young with milk. True or false. Because their skeletons are made of rubbery cartilage, sharks are placed in a separate class of chordates from fish with bones. True or false. Dolphins and their cousins the whales are mammals that breathe through gills just like fish.